Hey everyone, and welcome to our brand new series on communication. Today, we're kicking things off with the absolute fundamentals, the core ideas that can make or break, well, pretty much every single interaction you have. So, let's jump right in.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt completely misunderstood? You know the feeling. You explain something you think is perfectly clear, but the person you're talking to just isn't on the same page. That super frustrating moment? That's a classic communication breakdown. And today, we're going to dig into why it happens and how to stop.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with why communication is basically a human superpower. Then we'll take a quick journey through time to see how we got here. After that, we'll pop the hood on the communication machine itself. Then comes the really practical stuff, the 7 C's you need for success, a real-world case study where things go wrong, and finally, the one big idea that could honestly change the way you talk to people forever.
Let's start with a pretty bold claim. Communication is your superpower. Seriously. It's so much more than just talking. It's the engine behind every success, every relationship, every single goal you'll ever achieve.
I mean, it really is this simple. Whether you're in a high-stakes business meeting or just chatting with family, the quality of your communication directly shapes your success. The better you are at sharing your ideas and, just as important, understanding others, the more likely you are to get what you want. It truly is the engine that drives everything.
You know, to really get a handle on communication today, it helps to see just how far we've come. The tools we use have changed in ways our ancestors couldn't even imagine. But that fundamental human need to connect and share, well, that's been there from the very beginning.
And what a journey it's been. I mean, we started with paintings on cave walls. Then, around 10,000 BC, we were carving intricate symbols and stories into rock. Fast forward to 1440, and the printing press completely changes the game, letting ideas spread like wildfire. Then, bam, the telegraph in 1844 makes distance almost irrelevant. The internet starts to bubble up in the 70s, and that, of course, brings us to today, where we have instant global connection right in our pockets. The tools are always changing, but that need to share our stories, that never does.
Okay, so we know why it's so important, and we've seen a little bit of its history. But how does communication actually work? What's going on under the hood? Let's break down the mechanics of the whole process.
So, at its very heart, the word communication comes from Latin, communicare, which simply means to share. And that's really the key. It's not just talking at someone, it's a purposeful exchange. You are actively trying to share information, an idea, a feeling, a fact, using a system you both get, whether that's English, body language, or even emojis. And believe it or not, every single time you communicate, these basic elements are in play. You've got a source, that's you, sending a message through a channel like talking or texting to a receiver. Now, all of this happens in a specific environment and context, which could be a loud party or a quiet library. And here's the kicker. There's always the potential for interference or noise. And that could be anything from actual noise to your own personal biases getting in the way and messing up the message.
All right, now we're getting to the really good stuff, the practical toolkit. These are the 7 C's. Think of them as a checklist to make sure your message doesn't just get sent, but it gets received exactly the way you want it to. Let's walk through them.
First up is clarity. You gotta be clear. Focus on one single core message. If you try to say 10 things at once, all you do is create confusion. Use simple, direct language. Your goal isn't to sound smart, it's to be understood.
Next, we have correctness. This is a huge one for building trust. When your grammar is solid, your facts are straight, and your language is on point, you build credibility. People are just way more likely to believe you and be persuaded by a message that feels professional and well thought out.
Conciseness. In our world today, this is absolutely key. Respect people's time. Cut the fluff. Get to the point. A short, sharp message is powerful. It's easier to digest, easier to remember, and way more engaging than a long, rambling speech.
Number 4 is courtesy. It sounds so basic, right? But it's amazing how often it gets forgotten when things get tense. Being polite isn't just about being nice, it's smart. It builds goodwill and makes people actually want to listen to you. A simple please or thank you can open doors that an aggressive argument will slam shut.
Concreteness is what makes your message memorable. Vague ideas are easy to forget and even easier to misinterpret. But when you use specific facts, hard numbers, and vivid examples, you're painting a clear picture in their mind. And that picture is hard to ignore.
Now this is a total game changer. Consideration.
You have to think about your audience. What do they already know? What do they actually care about? What's their point of view? When you shape your message to fit their world, we'll talk about this more later, it's called the you attitude, your effectiveness just goes through the roof.
And finally, completeness. Did you give them everything they need to know? A message that's missing key info just leads to frustration and a bunch of back and forth emails. A complete message answers questions before they're even asked, which lets the other person make a decision and move on.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see how all this plays out in the real world. Or in this case, what happens when these principles get totally ignored. We're going to break down a real conflict and see who communicates well and who really doesn't.
So, picture this. It's 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon at the mall. A customer, we'll call him Mr. X, walks back into a shoe store. He's not happy with some shoes he just bought, and he's ready to let them know. The stage is set for a classic showdown.
And Mr. X comes in hot. He doesn't just state the problem, he jumps straight to an accusation. The shoes are seconds, it's a manufacturing defect. Right from the get-go, he's framing this as a fight.
The sales executive, Mr. A, he tries to counter with logic. He explains, "No, sir, that's just the design," and even offers to show him other pairs to prove it. Now, his response is technically correct, and he's being polite, but he's completely ignoring how Mr. X feels. He's all facts, no feeling.
And this is where things go off the rails. Mr. X doubles down. Now he's accusing the whole store. And Mr. A, he digs his heels in and just starts quoting policy. They are talking right past each other. One is all emotion, the other is all logic. The result? Total frustration.
Then, the manager, Mr. G, steps in. And notice his first move. He doesn't argue, he doesn't defend, he asks questions. "May I help you? Did you notice this before?" He's not trying to win, he's trying to understand. He's de-escalating from the very first word.
And this right here is a genius move by the manager. Just as the customer is about to boil over, Mr. G completely changes the subject by asking for the receipt. This simple pivot breaks the negative momentum, creates a pause for everyone to cool down, and resets the conversation. It is a masterclass in handling conflict.
So, looking at these different approaches, what do you think? Who was the most effective communicator here? Was it the guy sticking to the facts, or the manager who was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers? Let's break down the players scorecard style. Mr. A was professional, sure, but he was way too rigid at first. Mr. G, the manager, was the clear winner. He was strategic, he was a great listener, and he used questions perfectly. And poor Mr. X, well, he was persistent, you gotta give him that, but his confrontational, illogical style made him a totally ineffective communicator. He didn't get what he wanted. Out of that whole messy situation, there is one single concept that rises above everything else. It's the secret weapon that finally solved the problem, and it's something you can start using right now. It's called the you attitude. The you attitude is a simple but incredibly powerful shift in your thinking. It's about stopping, taking a breath, and framing your message based on the other person's interests, not your own. It's the difference between saying, "Well, our policy is," and saying, "Here's what this means for you." It's all about empathy.
And this right here, this is the magic moment. After all that fighting, the sales exec finally convinces Mr. X to take the shoes with him. How? Not by talking about store policy. He did it by appealing directly to Mr. X's own self-interest with this one simple line.
And that's the you attitude in action. Arguing about policy failed. Stating facts failed. But framing the issue as a risk to the customer, "Hey, you might lose your shoes," that finally worked. By shifting from his world to the customer's world, Mr. A found the solution. So, that brings us to the end, and I want to leave you with this question. Think about the next email you have to write, the next meeting you're in, or the next tough conversation you need to have. Where can you make that shift from your point of view to theirs? Where are you going to use the you attitude first?
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the fundamentals of communication. If you got something useful out of this explainer, please do us a huge favor and hit that like button, share it with someone you think needs to see it, and definitely subscribe for more explainers just like this one. We'll see you in the next one.